First of all, I'm going to ask you a really indiscreet question. How old are you?
I'm 28.
28. Okay, so then all of you looking and listening, you can see that Brandon's a little bit older than you, but actually not much. He's a lot younger than me, but he's already had a very rich education, and he has got to where he is because he's worked really hard at school. So I'm going to take us all the way back. Elementary school, not quite such a distant memory, but what was your favorite subject at school, Brandon?
So favorite subject, I guess if recess isn't an answer, I would say math. Math was definitely my favorite in elementary school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so moving on then from elementary school, maybe high school, recess, was that still really popular with you, or had you moved on a bit?
Yeah, as I got closer, more into high school, I started loving science a lot more, and especially so biology mainly in high school was like my favorite subject. We didn't have as much.
Was there a particular teacher who inspired you?
So I would say my biology teacher in high school, Dr. Keeney, was excellent, and really probably started my real big interest and my love for science. All kind of began, I would say, freshman year of high school, 9th grade, 10th grade. Around that time, I got really interested in mainly biology, but also I found chemistry really interesting and fascinating as well.
Okay, that's great. So when you went then onto college, I mean, we could sort of see a pattern developing of the maths and the science and sort of STEM subjects, you know, the science, technology, engineering, maths, STEM-y type subjects. So what did you major in college?
So I majored in psychology, actually, which is kind of, I guess, a softer science is what they call it. But it's a really, really interesting subject, psychology.
So you don't actually have to major in science to go on to med school then?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. In college, you do take all the science classes if you want to go to med school. But med schools actually find it really interesting when they have people applying to med school that aren't strictly focused on science. And they actually kind of saw other subjects out there like psychology, or like they love like art majors or English majors, people that are, you know, well-rounded and kind of are interested in lots of different things. It's kind of the kind of people they really like in med school.
Okay, so I have to apologize. My dog is barking. It's one of those Zoom issues, but I'll just carry on. So the pre-med then, you mentioned some of the prerequisites. So you did, which subjects were actually pre-med? What were the subjects you did at college which allowed you to go to med school?
Yeah, so in college, the pre-medical school subjects, so it's biology, you do chemistry, you do physics, you do organic chemistry, which is another chemistry, and then you do all sorts of like labs where you go to like a chemistry lab and you work with different chemicals and do some of those fun things. So
did you know that you really wanted to be a doctor at that time? Sort of, at what point during your college 4 years did you actually decide that was it, you wanted to be a doctor?
Yeah, so I would say it was probably more like sophomore year going into junior year, about halfway through my college experience. So that summer I worked at a camp called Camp Twin Lakes, which is here in Georgia, and it's a camp that every week has kids with different illnesses or different health issues. And I worked there for a summer, and I realized how awesome it was working with kids and how much you can help these kids with health issues or special needs. And at that time, I kind of realized I think I would want to be a pediatrician. So it was actually kind of rare for someone to decide they want to become like a pediatrician and a doctor at the same time. Usually people decide they want to be a doctor and then eventually find what kind of doctor they want to be. But for me, it was a little bit different, and I kind of decided I wanted to be a pediatrician and a doctor at the same moment in the middle of college there.
Okay, so actually the word pediatrician, what does it mean? What does pediatrician mean? How would you describe it?
So it's a kids doctor, a doctor that works with kids. So we work with kids anywhere from the second are born up until they are 18 to 21 years old, and you're the primary doctor as a pediatrician for those kids.
Okay, right. So then I guess the next step is your dream came true and you got into medical school. So when was the first time you got to wear, I might add you're not wearing one today, but when was the first time you got to wear that white coat?
Yeah. So it was probably about 3 months into medical school. I got my white coat. And it's a pretty cool moment we had a whole white coat ceremony when we put on that white coat, and the first time you really feel like you're going to be a doctor, and that was a cool moment.
Okay. And do you have to say anything special during that ceremony? Do you have to? Is that the point at which you take the Hippocratic Oath?
So we did. We take it at that time. Yeah. Which was also a cool moment, and it kind of felt like you're really becoming a doctor, and you're really officially on that path to be a doctor.
Okay.
It's been a long path since, but that was the first moment where you're like, I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah, well, that must have been an extremely great day, not only for you, but for everyone around you as well, and your family must have been super proud to see all the hard work paying off. So I can only imagine how that would feel. So you actually said that you knew you wanted to be a pediatrician before you even got to med school. But if you don't know and you go to med school, how do you decide what type of doctor you want to be?
Yeah, so everyone in med school, even for me, when I was like pretty certain I wanted to be a pediatrician, we all got to rotate around and see all the different cool specialties of the world of medicine. So I got to see, adult medicine, I got to spend a lot of time doing. I got to spend time doing surgery. I got to spend time doing sports medicine and orthopedic surgery. And then you also get to spend time doing like OBGYN and delivering babies, which was a cool moment. And
So you're mentioning a lot of big words here, which I'm just thinking that maybe some of our viewers might have questions to ask. So you can start putting questions into the chat if something occurs to you whilst I'm just having a conversation with Brandon. So if you have heard a word and you don't know what that is and you think, I need to know what that is, then just write a question or any other question about Brandon or what he does. When we're at the end of medical school, when you are sort of between med school and being out in the practicing as a doctor in the real world, what is that stage called, what you're doing now?
The stage I'm in right now is called Residency. So I am a doctor. After medical school, you become a doctor, but for 3 years, which I'm in the second year of, I'm kind of a doctor with supervision, meaning I have a older supervising doctor who works with me every single day. So I get to make, doctor decisions and get to meet all the patients on my own, but I work with a doctor and I run all my ideas and thoughts through these older doctors. And that way it's a nice kind of stepping stone. So before I'm out on all by myself, I'll have lots of teaching and lots of help. So I'll be able to be more, confident and be able to make the right decisions when I'm out on my own in a few years.
So you are now in residency. Are you just in one particular area of the hospital, or do you get to look around at different wards, different areas of the hospital that treat different parts of the body, for example?
Yeah, so that's one of the cool things about residency. So I picked pediatrics. So I want to work with kids, but we still have these rotations in residency. So every month I actually go to a new part of the hospital and I got to work with different kind of kids. So like right now I'm working with the neonatal ICU. So I'm with the little tiny babies right now. But then like next month I'll go and work with GI. So it's these kids with, GI illnesses. And then I also work in, the general pediatric hospital. And then I also go work out in little pediatric offices out in the community around Atlanta. So it's cool. You really get to see all sorts of different kinds of medicine.
So you talked about being with tiny babies. So you must have to be a real detective to treat tiny babies, because they're not coming to you saying, oh, I've hurt my hand, are they? I mean, how on earth do you communicate and find out how to treat a tiny baby? Yeah,
you're exactly right. It's some people say working with babies sometimes is almost like being a vet. They don't tell you what's wrong. You kind of just got to look at them and watch them. So the most important thing to do with these babies is to look at them often. So throughout a day when I'm working with these babies, I'll examine them, take a listen to them, kind of watch them breathing multiple times a day. And that way I'll kind of notice, I'll pick up if one baby's all of a sudden breathing a little different or acting a little different. That's how you know. Like you said, they don't really tell you. You can't ask them, hey, are you having a hard time breathing? Are you hurting? You just have to watch them and see if you notice a difference.
Wow. And did you say you'd been in the ER?
So yeah, I have. Actually, just a couple months ago, I spent 2 months there.
Wow. And so that really requires you to find out what the problem is and understand how people are, what's wrong with them. Is that called diagnostics? Is that right?
Yeah. So diagnosing is when you kind of come up with the answer. You try to come up with the answer. They come in with some sort of complaint and you do a little bit of a workup and you kind of diagnose them and decide what is this person's problem? How can I fix it?
And it actually must be quite scary going into ER for some kids, because you're used to it. You are in there all the time, but it's quite a busy place to be, isn't it? It can be a very scary place with all these beeps, all these noises, all these alarms going off. So one of the most important things to do is try to make sure the kids feel comfortable when they come to the ER and they come to the emergency room. It's always great. I always like making jokes with the patients. You try to just make them feel very comfortable with you. I always, if it's a little kid, I always try to offer them to sit in their parents' lap and their mom's lap to just kind of make them feel really comfortable, because it's a scary situation. Yeah, so you must have an incredible set of skills. So really, we've looked at you being a hard worker, you're a detective, you're good at problem solving. And actually, I can see that you don't do it alone, do you? Who else do you work with in your day? What other members of the medical profession do you talk to and work with?
Yeah, so taking care of a patient it is a team activity. It's one of the most important things of medicine is being a good team player and being able to have work with others. So the nurse, I always listen to the nurses. And then also you have your supervising doctor as well, like I was already talking about. And you have respiratory therapists, who are the kind of the therapists and like the experts of breathing therapies. You have pharmacists, which are the experts in medicines and expert in all sorts of medicines. And then you also have social workers, which help out in people's social situations. If people need housing or transportation, there's just so many people that go in to helping a single kid.
So you're constantly collaborating with a whole team all day.
Definitely a lot of collaboration for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like a really great part of the job, because you are being with young people, you're being with really experienced older doctors, you're learning from them. That's great. So let's just think about, maybe, is there one bit of advice that you would give our young viewers about becoming a doctor? About
becoming a doctor, I mean, it's hard work. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of long hours. So it takes a lot of determination, meaning you got to really stick with it. A lot of stick-with-itness is what you need on this journey, because it's a long journey. You know, I'm 28. I'm still a couple years away from being done with this journey. So it's a long time. But you know, if you really love it and it's something that you truly love, then it's totally worth it. And you know, it's every day, even the journey itself, while it's hard, it's awesome.
It comes out that you're passionate about it. So I think actually we've got some really passionate viewers as well. Mr. Mike, have you got any questions for Dr. Estroff?
Yeah, we've had a lot of great questions come in from the kids. Yeah, so I'll try and get to most of them here. So one person asked where your office is, Brandon? Do you have an actual office yet, or how does that work?
So I don't have an actual office yet in this stage of my career. Probably in 2 years. I'm about 2 years away from that. So at the end of residency, which is kind of this phase of you're a doctor, but you're still in training. I just kind of rotate around seeing different offices. But I don't have my own office quite yet. But that's the goal in a couple of years.
Okay, excellent. All right, good. Okay, then now again, two questions are kind of related. One was, what's your favorite memory of working to be a doctor so far? And related to that, what's your favorite thing so far about being a doctor? Other than, I know you mentioned that you love kids and babies, which is awesome, but if you had to pick a different one, what would be another cool thing about it?
Yeah, so I would say favorite memory so far was probably graduating medical school. And becoming an official doctor. That was just like an incredible day. And a close second to that is something called match day, which is where you find out that day where you're going to go spend your residency, your next 3 years. You kind of open up an envelope, and inside the envelope tells you where you're going to go for the next 3 years. And I wanted to be here in Atlanta. I wanted to be at Emory. And when I got that was just an incredible moment. So that's probably been my favorite memory of this journey so far. From what I love most about pediatrics is, so by far it's definitely working with the kids and working with kids. You know, it's working with kids makes your day kind of so lighthearted, and it's really fun. And kids are just hilarious to work with, and it's really fulfilling also when you get to help them and you feel like you really make a difference in their lives.
Excellent. All right, good. All right, then another, maybe a tougher one. Is it ever scary to work with a patient, or like what are you scared of if that's ever happened?
Yeah, I would say it definitely can be scary. So there's critical issues in medicine where, you know, sometimes kids can get sick quickly, and those can be scary moments. And those are the moments when I really rely on my supervising and older doctors who have been there many times before and seem to always have all the answers. But of course, in those scary moments, probably one of the most important things to do is just you got to keep calm in those times. It's if you ever, you know, if you're freaking out inside, you got to try to stay calm on the outside, because if you're freaking out, and the kid's gonna be freaking out, and it's gonna make the whole situation worse.
All right, good. Okay, another one was someone asked, have you ever actually been in a real surgery before?
I have, yeah. So in medical school, I gotta do multiple surgeries, which is really cool. I spent 2 months going to surgeries every single day. And surgeries they're really cool. They're really cool to see. It's not something I would like to do my whole life, but there's definitely people that do absolutely love surgeries. It's a lot of standing. You have to be able to stand for long periods of time. And you gotta be really focused on one thing for many, many hours in a row. These surgeries last you don't think about it, they can last 3 to 4 to even sometimes 6 hours of kind of standing there and and being focused, which isn't necessarily my cup of tea, but some people absolutely love that.
Yeah, super. And we had a specific version of that question come in too. Have you ever actually taken out a kid's appendix or seen that done?
So I actually have not seen that done. I've taken care of many kids who have eventually gone on and needed their appendix taken out, but I haven't personally been in the room for one of those surgeries. Okay.
All right, cool. Okay, and then had another general question. How does the medicine get to the patients?
Yeah, it's a good question. So most of the time, if able to, we give the medicines through the like you would take like Tylenol at home, kind of like a syrup or through the mouth. But sometimes we do need to do IV medicine, so we put in IVs, which are kind of tubes that go into the blood, and you can push medicines through that IV. Oftentimes when kids, if they end up in the hospital, they will end up needing IVs. But if we can avoid them, we try.
Okay, excellent. Okay, then we had a fun question come in too. So do you ever get to play with your patients? So since you enjoy working with kids, do you ever get to just have fun with them and play games or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, every once in a while. So I'm trying to think, like one specific memory I have is like in December. So I just kind of sat down and watched a football game with one of my patients. It was kind of a slow day in the hospital. And there was a big game on, and the kid wanted to watch the game, and I was like, I sat down and hung out and watched a football game with him for an hour or so. That was really fun.
Oh, excellent. All right, good. All right, and then actually, my wife and I had this question. You mentioned GI before. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so it's basically the doctors that take care of all the stuff in the guts and the stomach. It's the gastrointestinal, which is basically the tract that goes from your mouth to your stomach to your intestines, and they deal with all sorts of illnesses and sicknesses that can sometimes arise in that tract there.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, good. And then two more we had come in. I know you mentioned it takes a lot of long work. Can you say like how many hours a day it takes to be a doctor? Like how many days a week you end up doing work?
So it all depends on the phase of life you're in. So right now I'm working a lot of hard hours. I'm working probably 10 hours on average, 10 to 12 hours, I would say about 6 days a week is what I'm doing right now. But it's all about the phase of life you're in. So in 2 years, when I'm out in the real world on my own, I'll only be working about 4 days a week is hopefully the goal. But those days, of course, are long. Those are probably 12-hour, 14-hour days. But eventually, there is an end in sight where you have a little bit more free time. Eventually.
Okay, super. Okay, and then one more we had was, do you get to choose who your supervisor is?
So not always. You get to choose your mentor, who's kind of your advisor and who you go to for all life questions. But usually it's kind of assigned and you kind of show up and then there's a supervising doctor. But luckily where I am right now at Emory, all the supervising doctors are really, really awesome and they love teaching. The reason why they are supervising doctors is because they want to teach you. So they're excellent teachers and they're very supportive.
Okay, super. All right, then we had a good, this is kind of a math question first. So you mentioned you work with the neonatal and the tiny babies. How tiny are they? Like how small do they get?
Yeah. So right now I have about 3 babies that are about a pound, a little bit over a pound. So they're very, very tiny. They can be very tiny, and those kids sometimes, they're in the hospital for a long amount of time as they grow. Before they can go home. But they start off about a pound, which is small.
Okay, excellent. All right, super. Well, I think that's most of what came in, Lorna, so unless you'd want to open up and see if there's any others.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and not only to have Dr. Estroff here, but also everyone joining us. We've really enjoyed seeing your faces and listening to your great questions. and hearing what you want to be when you grow up. And I hope that you have learned a lot. And if you do have any questions, I'm sure that you can send challenge-island.com. And we can forward them to Dr. Brandon if there's anything that you didn't ask and you would like to ask in the future. So thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and definitely send any questions my way. I'm always happy to answer any emails.
That's brilliant. And so thank you, Mr. Mike, for being our question master, and never forget Challenge Island. Okay, so thank you very much. And we have another one in the series coming up next Thursday. It will be. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you. Bye.